Well, it feels like the end of an era. Mitch McConnell, the longest tenured Republican Senate leader, the Grim Reaper of legislation, the Emperor Palpatine of American politics with a foghorn leghorn accent, just announced that in November, he'll be stepping down from Republican leadership and will not seek re-election in the Senate once his term expires in 2027. We should be celebrating. But why does it feel so ominous? Well, before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, friends, we have several clips to play in this video. Full disclosure, I spent most of my life in rural Kentucky. Most of my family members and friends are in Kentucky, so I got a dual perspective on this. I got to see what Mitch McConnell did, not just to the country, but also to the state where I spent most of my life. I think he's a terrible person. I think he has been a disaster for the Senate, for the institution and the norms within the Senate, for American democracy in general, certainly for the federal judiciary. And yet when I saw this news, I wasn't doing cartwheels like I thought I should, and we'll get into why. But here is the announcement from the Fox Propaganda Network.
Tammy, this breaking news gives us a new topic to talk about, definitely on the other side. A Senate minority leader, he's ranking leader in the Senate because Republicans are not in leadership majority. Mitch McConnell will step down from his post in November. And we know that he is the longest serving Senate leader in history who's maintained his power in the face of dramatic convulsions in the Republican Party for nearly 2 decades. They've had a lot of change. Well, let's not even ignore the stuff that's happened on the other side and is happening now. I'm reading to you, just so you know, from the Associated Press. So it is written with some interesting color. McConnell just turned.
Interesting color, right? Because, I mean, if anything, the Associated Press is probably too generous with respect to its coverage of soon-to-be former leader McConnell. Here's the situation. We're going to play some clips of McConnell. He actually spoke on the Senate floor today, basically announcing this or giving public remarks about this announcement. I want to play some of those. I also want to play another famous clip, which just goes to show McConnell's cynicism, his disturbing cynicism in the face of what he knows to be right, but he is ultimately a coward who will seek political expediency over anything else. We'll get to all that. But here's the thing with McConnell. It's not just that he's a Republican elected official. Obviously, by definition, certainly in today's climate, that makes him a bit problematic just inherently. But Mitch McConnell very much set the stage for what the Republican Party has become. I made a tweet about this where in a way he reminds me of Victor Frankenstein from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein novel. He reminds me of the scientist, right? Whatever his intentions may be, and I imagine they're quite sinister, Mitch McConnell ultimately created a monster that he could not control, and I think even horrifies him, okay? But in terms of the erosion of institutions and norms and traditions and just good faith in the Senate, Mitch McConnell played an outsized role in that. It didn't just start with Donald Trump. It predated Trump. It actually predated McConnell. I think for the modern era, it really began with Newt Gingrich in the House of Representatives, right, during the Clinton administration. And then McConnell took that playbook and ran with it in the other chamber, the Senate, particularly during the Obama administration. Mitch McConnell famously said after Barack Obama was elected president that his number one political goal would be to deny President Obama a second term, not to work with him in good faith, not to, seek compromise where we can, and yes, hopefully win the election. He gave the game away. He said his explicit goal was to basically screw Obama such that Obama would lose re-election. Now, McConnell failed in that respect, but the damage he did to American politics, to, again, the federal judiciary, to, again, the norms and institutions of the Senate through that defeat and then during Obama's second term were staggering. So to put it in perspective, one of the things that McConnell did, which was terrible, is he used Senate procedure and the filibuster and all sorts of clever parliamentarian bad faith tricks to block Obama appointees to an unprecedented extent. To put it in perspective, Article 2 of the Constitution empowers the sitting president to make various executive and federal judiciary appointees, right? Now, in many of them, they need Senate confirmation, right? That's part of the checks and balances. But historically speaking, there was great deference paid to the president. The idea basically was, listen, if you're the president and you want to put somebody in this particular position, it's not necessarily going to be guaranteed, but because you're the president, because you have the right to do it, because you were elected, we're going to give you a lot of slack. Like, you'd have to pick a really, really bad candidate for us to block you. And that was the position of Republicans and Democrats when the other party was in power, right? There was, again, good faith. Like, you need to pick a good candidate, but odds are you're going to get who you want. When Obama tried to fill various executive and judicial appointments, McConnell blocked them so much, it was unprecedented. He blocked more under Obama's terms, his 2 terms, than had ever been blocked in the history of the United States. So think about that. In an 8-year spread, Mitch McConnell blocked more executive appointments, judicial appointments from President Obama than had ever been blocked from, 1789 all the way until 2009. That's the bad faith. He crammed so much because all he wanted to do was undermine Barack Obama. It got so bad that Democratic Majority Leader Harry Reid said, listen, if you don't stop doing this, McConnell, then we're going to have to change some of the rules, because you can't just make the president a lame duck. The president should be able to appoint, for the most part, who the hell he wants in these positions because of Article 2. McConnell wouldn't relent, so Harry Reid changed the rules to allow a simple majority to fill these vacancies. And then McConnell said, listen, if you do that, then I'm going to do it to you when we retake power. And Harry Reid's like, well, I guess I can't stop you, but also it's not like this is our first choice. It's you just keep playing dirty pool, and we're not just going to roll over and let you run or let you keep these vacancies open. If you're going to play dirty pool and if you won't stop, then we're going to change the rules to minimize your ability to do that. The second that Donald Trump won the presidency in 2016, it was inaugurated in 2017, and Republicans got the majority, they made Supreme Court vacancies fillable by a simple majority. Before that, it had to be a 60-person vote, right? Again, there was really no need for that. It was just, McConnell was like, you did it, there go. The second I have an opportunity to do it, I'm going to do it to you. But McConnell was the reason for it in the first place. It's almost like an abuser saying to his abused spouse, if you block my punch, I'm just going to hit you harder, right? McConnell was the one who acted in bad faith in the first place when Democrats, after months and months and months and months, if not years, of saying, please stop doing this, then when they defended themselves, McConnell just tried to hit them back harder. He also famously withheld President Obama's ability to fill the vacancy left by conservative Justice Antonin Scalia. He invented this rule that, well, it's an election year, and so we don't fill vacancies during an election year. And that was his excuse in 2016. Then, of course, in 2020, when it was an election year, he crammed Amy Coney Barrett through just weeks before the election. So again, double standards and bad faith all the way around. Mitch McConnell has reshaped the federal judiciary. That was his goal. Whereas Donald Trump's goals were tax cuts for the rich, McConnell was to cram every vacancy in the U.S. federal system, the court system, with every young conservative judge he could find. And right now, President Biden has not quite caught up, even though he has tried to work at a record pace. The number, I believe, of appointments under Trump and McConnell are still the record to beat. So that's how much damage McConnell has done to the federal judiciary. Young conservative radical judges who have lifetime appointments will be there until they either die or retire. He also changed Senate rules to make those vacancies more easily fillable. He revoked the blue slip rule for certain types of judges, meaning that before senators from various states could say, listen, I'm not going to, I don't like this appointment. I give you a blue slip, find a different judge. Don't put this judge in my home state. Again, Republicans and Democrats have used this blue slip system. But when Trump became president, McConnell took the majority. They revoked the blue slips and they said, Democrats, we don't care if you'd prefer another judge. We're just going to put whoever the hell we want in, right? So it just enabled them, once again, broke a long-standing tradition to fill as many judicial vacancies as possible. What this did was create a permissive environment for Republicans to break, bend, and twist norms. Then when you combine that willingness from McConnell with someone who's eager to do so, like Donald Trump, as well as the MAGA cult, you have a recipe for disaster, because the thing is, there is a difference between McConnell and Trump. McConnell is a very strategic breaker of norms. He doesn't just break them carelessly. He just doesn't break them recklessly. He didn't wake up one morning and say, you know what, I'm just going to break a norm for the hell of it, or even just for any advantage. Now, he was a bit careful. Still bad faith, still terrible, still created a permissive structure, but not quite a wrecking ball. Whereas MAGA is a wrecking ball, but they can point to McConnell and say, well, it's happened under McConnell. We're just accelerating it, right? That's the danger. And that's where you see from reports that McConnell despised Trump, thought he was an idiot. Of course, Trump famously despises McConnell, publicly so, right? McConnell won't talk smack about Trump. Trump has consistently talked smack about McConnell for years, right? Because for McConnell, he'll take the verbal abuse and the public insults as long as he can get results, get power. Trump is the exact opposite because he's a thin-skinned, malignant narcissist. This is what Mitch McConnell had to say as a reminder. This is how you know he knows that Trump is an idiot and a fascist. This is what McConnell had to say after January 6th.
No question, none, that President Trump is practically and morally responsible for provoking the events of the day.
And he's also referred to it as an insurrection. McConnell said this publicly, right? Because here's the thing. I think in his own twisted way, McConnell cares about this country. He just wants to radically reshape it and is willing to do so at the expense of others. But I don't think, for example, that he wants Donald Trump to be immune from all criminal prosecution, or that Donald, it's very strategic. It's cunning. It's arguably evil, but it's strategic. Whereas Trump just cares about Trump. And we've seen, again, in the years since Trump has lost re-election, the criticism from the MAGA contingent about McConnell, that he's insufficiently loyal to Trump, have only escalated to the extent that McConnell has gotten public criticism from not just Trump, but also Republican senators and congresspeople as well, which was unheard of during the Obama administration, right? That's how you can tell that McConnell's necrotic grip on power was loosening, right? But what's interesting is, so he knows that Donald Trump is responsible for January 6th is an easy example. He knows it's an insurrection. He knows Trump is a narcissistic fascist. And again, according to reports, he did not want Donald Trump to be the nominee in the first place, didn't want him to be the nominee in 2024, but he puts his sinister political agenda and his party above the country. And if that means, elevating Donald Trump as a means to an end, so be it. But Donald Trump has radically reshaped the Republican Party into an authoritarian cult of personality. Right. So he has actually assumed control of the party in a way that Mitch McConnell is very clearly uncomfortable with. But McConnell is responsible for it in part. Again, McConnell created a permissive structure and enabled Trump to do it because he thought he could control Trump. He thought he could use Trump. And even though he calls January 6th an insurrection, even though he, blamed Trump for it, at the end of the day, he didn't vote to convict Donald Trump in his second impeachment. Right. He used an excuse. Well, Trump's out of office. Trump's out of office, you can't impeach or convict. Again, just creating this rule because he knew it would be politically inexpedient to hurt someone so popular within the Republican Party, even though principle would dictate that he should. So he is basically hoisted by his own petard. I just want to play a couple of clips here and then we'll wrap it up. But obviously there was a lot to say. But this is Mitch McConnell speaking about his impending step down from leadership.
Believe me, I know the politics within my party at this particular moment in time. I have many faults. Misunderstanding politics is not one of them. That said, I believe more strongly than ever that America's global leadership is essential to preserving the shining city on a hill that Ronald Reagan discussed. For as long as I'm drawing breath on this earth, I will defend American exceptionalism. So as I've been thinking about when I would deliver some news to the Senate, I always imagined a moment when I had total clarity and peace about the sunset of my work. A moment when I'm certain I have helped preserve the ideals I so strongly believe.
I don't believe that, unless your ideals are just the naked acquisition of power. Mitch McConnell's legacy, when history looks back on him, they will say that he helped usher in the age of Donald Trump due to terrible miscalculations, due to his eagerness to set aside, in his mind strategically, certain norms for short-term political advantage. And then the real question is what follows him, right? Because again, we've seen reporting where Mitch McConnell has tried, it's been a failing brake check, right? It's like the lack of brake fluid, but he has attempted to pump the brakes of full-born fascism from MAGA, the stupid, unrepentant, open fascism rather than the sinister, slow burn fascism that he prefers. Now he'll be gone. So then the question is, will it get worse? Some people say it will get worse because they're going to be more reckless and more dangerous. Others say their intent will get worse, but they'll lack McConnell's competence, so it may actually be better in the long run. I'm not quite sure. I can see both sides. I'm a cynic by nature, but that's part of the reason why I have mixed feelings about this. But yeah, the end of an era. McConnell is terrible. He did terrible damage to this country. The only question is what will follow. Let me know what you think in the comments.